Speaking of intentional action, and if the brain is, if prediction is indeed a core component of the brain, let me ask you a question that scientists also hate is about free will. So, how does do you think about free will much? How does that fit into this, into your view of the brain? Why does it feel like we make decisions in this world?
This is a hard. Scientists hate this because it's a hard
Yeah.
question. We don't know the
Have you
answer to.
taken a side?
I think I
Do we have
have.
free will?
I think I have taken a side, but I don't put a lot of stock in my own intuitions or anybody's intuitions about the cause of things, right? One thing we know about the brain for sure is that the brain creates experiences for us. My brain creates experiences for me. Your brain creates experiences for you in a way that lures you to believe that those experiences actually reveals the way that it works,
Right.
but it doesn't. So the
So you don't trust your own intuition about
Not
about
really.
free will?
Not really. No, I mean, no, but I am also somewhat persuaded by, I think Dan Dennett wrote at one point, like, the philosopher Dan Dennett wrote at one point that I can't say it as eloquently as him, but people obviously have free will. They are obviously making choices. So and so there is this observation that we're not robots and we can do some things like a little more sophisticated than an amphioxus. So here's what I would say. I would say that your predictions, your internal model that's running right now, right? That your ability to understand the sounds that I'm making and attach them to ideas is based on the fact that you have years of experience knowing what these sounds mean in a particular statistical pattern, right? I mean, that's how you can understand the words that are coming out of my
Mouth?
right. I think we did this once before too, didn't we? When we were,
I don't know. I would have to access my memory module.
I think when I was in
The class thing?
I think we did it just like that actually. So bravo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to go look back to the tape.
Yeah. Anyways, the idea though is that your brain is using past experience and it can use past experience in so it's remembering, but you're not consciously remembering. It's basically re-implementing prior experiences as a way of predicting what's going to happen next. Yeah. And it can do something called conceptual combination, which is it can take bits and pieces of the past and combine it in new ways. So you can experience and make sense of things that you've never encountered before because you've encountered something similar to them. Mm-hmm. And so a brain, in a sense, is not doesn't just contain information. It is information gaining, meaning it can create new information by this generative process. So in a sense, you could say, well, that maybe that's a source of free will. But I think really where free will comes from, or the kind of free will that I think is worth having a conversation about, is involves cultivating experiences for yourself that change your internal model. When you were born and you were raised in a particular context, that your brain wired itself to your surroundings, to your physical surroundings and also to your social surroundings. So you were handed an internal model, basically. But when you grow up, the more control you have over where you are and what you do, you can cultivate new experiences for yourself. And those new experiences can change your internal model. And you can actually practice those experiences in a way that makes them automatic, meaning it makes it easier for your brain to make them again. And I think that is something like what you would call free will. You aren't responsible for the model that you were handed, that someone, your caregivers cultivated a model in your brain. You're not responsible for that model, but you are responsible for the one you have now. You choose what you expose yourself to. You choose how you spend your time. Not everybody has choice over everything,
Right.
but everybody has a little bit of choice. And so I think that is something that I think is arguably called free will.
Yeah, there's this like the ripple effects of the billions of decisions you make early on in life are so great that even if it's not, even if it's like all deterministic, just the amount of possibilities that are created and then the focusing of those possibilities into a single trajectory, that somewhere within that, that's free will. Even if it's all deterministic, that might as well be of just the number of choices that are possible, and the fact that you just make one trajectory through those set of choices seems to be like something like that would be called free will. But it's still kind of sad to think like there doesn't seem to be a place where there's magic in there, where it is all just a computer.
Well, there's lots of magic, I would say, so far, because we don't really understand how all of this is exactly played out at a. I mean, scientists are working hard and disagree about some of the details under the hood of what I just described, but I think there's quite a bit of magic, actually. And also there's also stochastic firing of neurons. They're not purely digital in the sense that there's also analog communication between neurons, not just digital. So it's not just with firing of axons. And some of that there are other ways to communicate. And also there's noise in the system, and the noise is there for a really good reason, and that is the more variability there is, the more potential there is for your brain to be able to be information bearing. So basically, there are some animals that have clusters of cells. The only job is to inject noise, into their neural patterns.
So maybe noise is the source of free will.
So you can think about
Yeah.
stochasticity or noise as a source of free will, or you can think of conceptual combination as a source of free will. You can certainly think about cultivating. You can't reach back into your past and change your past. People try by psychotherapy and so on, but what you can do is change your present, which becomes your past.
Well, let me
Right.
think about that sentence.
So one way to think about it is that you're continuously, this is a colleague of mine, a friend of mine said, so what you're saying is that people are continually cultivating their past. And I was like, that's very poetic.
Yeah.
Yes. You are continually cultivating your past as a means of controlling your future.
So you think, I guess the construction of the mental model that you use for prediction ultimately contains within it your perception of the past, like the way you interpret the past, or even just the entirety of your narrative about the past. So you're constantly rewriting the story of your past. Oh boy. Yeah. That's one, poetic and also just awe-inspiring.